Hey everybody, it's Jaffe. Welcome to the Gabbin+Games Podcast. This is episode 3. This is the audio version with some video, but it exists to be an audio version primarily to be listened to and downloaded of the Gabbin+Games live show that we do over on the YouTube. The podcast version is edited, truncated, clarified, streamlined, and I think it's a better listen, so hopefully you'll enjoy it. It's good to have you here. I want to tell you a couple of things. There's some news stories that I'll put in these before we get to the show. The show you're about to hear was recorded Thursday late night. As of now, like I said, it's Saturday afternoon, and I just want to talk a little bit about what's been going on. I have been playing the Ascent. I want to put it in the background so you can see it as we talk. You know, the Ascent is sitting at like a 65 Metacritic. It is not getting a lot of review love, and I've only played about an hour and a half, 2 hours of it. Most of the complaints I've seen deal with repetitive missions, and there's bugs and things like that. I haven't played enough for it to get repetitive yet. It may very well. I've played multiplayer of it, and I've also played single player. What I will tell you is what I have played so far, and let me scrub ahead here because these are just the opening titles, is fucking phenomenal in terms of the world building. Once you get out into, and if you're looking at your screen, I'm showing you kind of the hub world, the main city. It's called Arca. I don't know what it's called, but it is just such a beautifully realized version of cyberpunk and dystopian cyberpunk. This is the stuff I grew up with. It was like Judge Dredd and the Shadowrun and what's the Blade Runner, and it's like this captures that so beautifully. Being in this city, the city feels alive, it feels vibrant, it's very interactive. It really does feel like a real place, more so even than bugs aside, more so than CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk. And when you go inside the buildings and the shops and it zooms into the shopkeepers, I mean, it very much reminds me of being a kid in the 80s and reading some of the manuals and seeing the beautiful artwork of the pen and paper RPGs that were set in these same kind of environments. It really does a great job of evoking place. I said last night, and I stand behind this, the last time I felt this immersed in a world was when I played VR for the first time. And, you know, VR wears off, the gimmick wears off after a while, and the game either sinks or swims on its own, as it should be. This is primarily an isometric game, and it's an isometric game where you don't even control the camera. But being in the space, and I'm not talking about cutscenes, I'm talking about running around the space, interacting with it, even with that very old-fashioned camera, it is so realized and so detailed and so much nuance and specificity that it feels like it transports you. And whether or not the game I only play for another couple of hours because the major complaint, which is repetitive missions, just starts to drag on me, yeah, that may be the case, but that doesn't take away from the fact that this team, this game, has cracked I don't know, man, the ability to be in this game world and feel like you're really there and feel like it's lived in and feel like it is true and that it can transport you. That is some special shit. And this is perhaps it's a game to keep an eye on. I don't know if they're going to, keep working on it and add things that deal with the criticisms, like more varied missions. But whether you keep your eye on the game or not, keep your eye on the team. It's a small team. I heard it was 12 people. How that's possible, I don't fucking know, given how rich this environment looks. But I'll tell you what an achievement, what an amazing experience to have. And I'm playing it on the Series X, which doesn't have the PC's ray tracing yet. I guess there's a patch coming for that. But even without that, boy, what a beautiful, just inspiring, fun playground that they have given us. So this is the Ascent, and I have been playing that recently. So, you know what happened yesterday, real quick? This was nuts. Okay, so I was not really interested in the Playdate, and if you don't know the Playdate, and if you are looking at your television, like you're watching this on TV. Basically, the Playdate's this little yellow thing. It's the yellow thing with the hand crank. It looks kind of like a Game Boy. One of the Game Boys back in the day. I forget which one it was. It was kind of shaped like this. And I was just like, whatever. It looks novelty. It looks gimmicky, whatever. And it's $180. And they only have 20,000 for 2021, and then you can pre-order for 2022 if you didn't get within the first shipment. Well, the first shipment of 20,000, and I don't know when they go out, probably towards the end of the year, they sold out in under 20 minutes, okay? I mean, that's kind of staggering, given that this thing, at least, it was staggering to me at first. And then I was just like, what am I missing? Because this just felt very hipstery to me. This just felt like the only reason people are into this is because it's hipstery. Fuck this bullshit. I don't care. And I wasn't really tracking it. But I went to the website, and I kind of want one now. And I kind of want one, not because the crank. I think the crank's whatever. I mean, you can do everything they're showing with the crank for the most part with buttons. I don't, whatever. It's who cares? But what I thought was really cool about it is when you buy the thing for $180, I like this business model. It's really interesting. You basically get, for $180, you get 24 games in varieties of genres, 2 a week for 12 weeks. So every week you turn the thing on. Hey, here's 2 new games. Here's 2 new games. Here's 2 new games. You don't have to pay anything for them. I don't know if that's going to be the case. They're just going to have seasons, and maybe you can then go back and buy seasons that you missed. But the idea of turning on a cute little system every week and getting some weird fucking interesting little indie strange games, I think that's pretty fucking cool. I don't really have any interest in developing anymore, but apparently it's pretty easy to develop for. It doesn't cost anything to develop for. You can do it in a web browser, and you can actually put your own games on this as well. So I think this is a lot cooler than I thought. Even if I had thought it was cool though back in the day when they first announced it, I wouldn't have gotten up, the crack of dawn to try to get one of these, but it's on my radar now for sure. But it's probably still a little too expensive. $180 a lot for that. But that's the Playdate. $180 sold out in 20 minutes. You can still order them, I think. Maybe the 2022 is sold out as well. It says it's still possible as of yesterday to order the Sunshine Yellow devices, but the units you order won't be shipped until 2022 at the earliest. So there you go. The last thing before we jump into the actual podcast from the other night is the news. It's tentative, but the word on the street, and this was, Jeff Grubb is a journalist that I don't really care for, only because the guy blocked me because he literally thought when he goes to this my YouTube channel and it says join the fight, like join a membership in Gabbin+Games, I think he thought, or I know he thought based on his tweets before he blocked me, that I was some kind of alt-right, like join the fight on Gamergate or something, or like some, MAGA thing, which is fine if you want to be into that, but that's, anybody who knows me knows couldn't be further from that. And I was like, what the fuck? What a dick. So anyway, I have a thing with him that, regardless of if he's a good journalist or not. But anyway, he was the one who let people know. I think this is being delayed. And then Schreier went on to, over on Bloomberg, went on to say, yeah, I think this is being delayed too. Or Schreier's reporting it like it's his sources at Sony saying that. But they're saying it'll be out first quarter 2022 for Horizon Forbidden West. That's disappointing, of course. Sony hasn't responded. Sony hasn't said it's true, but, everyone's reporting on this now. It's, it's possible come Monday or Tuesday, Sony's like, no, we're still aiming for holiday 2021, but we'll have to wait. We'll have to see. But yeah, that is the big news for Sony. And what's weird about it and disappointing about it, if you're a Sony fan, or if not even, I'm a Sony fan, but I have more than my PlayStation 5, is that's really their biggest, I think that did the Bridge of Spirits game get delayed as well? I know it was delayed, but I don't think it was delayed past 2021. Let's see. Bridge of Spirits is coming out in September. Okay, so you will have kind of a big 3D showpiece game if you're a PlayStation only player. Certainly it's going to make Xbox look good in comparison. I mean, I don't know if you like the games around over there, but Flight Sim and Psychonauts and Forza, and then there's a bunch of supplemental games in between those big games coming out for Xbox this holiday, and all you really have is Bridge of Spirits. But I still think it's a great holiday gift if you're looking at a PS5, because most people don't have them, and there's a lot of good games you can get that are on that system. But yeah, what a punch in the nose for PlayStation exclusive fans that were looking forward to that one. That one is now heading out to 2022, most likely. The good news is it'll be time for Alloy. She'll have enough time, or Alloy, to go on a diet. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, fuck you. Well, not fuck you, but I had somebody on the line go, Jeffy, you still are bothered by that. You're so triggered. Yes, I am. I'm triggered by the fact that I live in a world where one of my favorite hobbies, which is video games, seems to be not dominated by, but certainly there is a vocal group of gamers within that group that are just a bunch of misogynistic, judgy fucks. Yes, I am still bothered by that. That hasn't gone away. If that makes me a soy boy or whatever, I will proudly wear my soy boy t-shirt out to the grocery store as I shop for, I guess, soy, if that's what I eat. Anyway, all right, fellas, that's the new content. If you're going to listen to this, it's been edited. I've added a bunch of audio stuff to make things clearer. So if you didn't kind of get the whole show Friday, I don't think it's going to feel like a new show. We're still going to cover the same topics we covered, on Thursday, but it is absolutely a different pace, a different flow, and a little bit more clarity and information. So hope you enjoy it, and I will see you guys soon. But in the meantime, here is Jaffe from 2 days ago, and he's going to take over, and he's going to treat you like the goddamn champ that you are and take you through the world of video games. Okay, fellas, here he is. Jaffe in the future. Jaffe, go! I forgot one more thing. If you're watching you're going to have some screens that have videos. You're going to have some screens that just have the Gabbin+Games logo. That's because, again, supplemental audio. So when I've recorded new audio for these podcasts, if you're watching in video and it just goes to the logo, you're like, what the fuck happened to the video? That's your cue, along with the terrible audio editing, that you're listening to some new audio content. Okay, I'll see you guys later. Bye. Welcome to Gabbin+Games. It's good to see you. I'm glad you're doing well. I'm glad you're here with me tonight. Thanks for showing up so late. I appreciate it. We will talk about a lot of things tonight. We're going to talk about PlayStation sales figures that just dropped. We are going to talk about Xbox news. We're going to talk a little bit. We're not going to hit the beat a dead horse with Activision, but there is some new Activision stuff coming out today about just what a putrid company that is. We have a lot going on. We have Rob the Mod here tonight. We have Bukaki Drive-By here tonight, making sure everybody stays on the straight and narrow. So with that said, we will get rolling. When is the financial report from Sony, says Mr. Sarcastic. It's coming up in just a second, sir. But first, what I want to do is I want to talk to you guys about just an interesting rhythm in my life in terms of game playing. I was going through this phase when I was playing a lot of Returnal and a lot of Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and I couldn't separate myself from PlayStation. All I was doing was playing my PS5. And then I went on a PC kick, and now I am on a Xbox Series X kick. It's constant releases of things I'm interested in. Death's Door, I'm playing. I don't agree with the massive love that game is getting. I think it's good. I don't know why people are losing their shit over it, but it's good. And I'm enjoying playing that. I'm playing Microsoft Flight Sim that had it on the PC, but it was too much of a hog for my machine. Playing it on the Series X is just the right way for me to do it. I'm enjoying playing it there. It's getting a lot more playtime than I thought it would. I kind of figured I'd play with it, download it for, on Gamepass for a day or two and then be done with it. But I'm playing it a lot more. And then I just started playing the Ascent today, and I like it. I know the reviews are mixed. I don't love it. I think, I was playing with some people who just found me and said, Jaffe, come into our game. I played with them today, and it's good. I don't know if I'm going to find myself addicted to sort of what the loop is. There's definitely kind of a sci-fi Diablo aspect to it, and I like that about it. I like the cyberpunk meets Diablo angle, but I don't think the moment-to-moment stuff on Ascent feels as good as I wish it would in terms of the guns and things like that. The shooting, like, it's a twin-stick shooter. The shooting does not feel anywhere near as good as the Housemarque twin-stick shooters, right? But it's good. I'm enjoying it. I'll play that a little bit more, and then Psychonauts is just around the corner. So it's a good time to be an Xbox owner for sure. It is a good time to be a PlayStation owner, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. I want to tell you some numbers that dropped. But before we get to that, Somebody asked me in the chat, did I order a Playdate? Look, if people come out and start talking about Playdate and saying it's filled with really cool games, I'll pick it up. Nodog says it's better than Bloodroots, which was just one hit cheap. I love Bloodroots. If you don't know what he's talking about, Bloodroots is a game that is on Game Pass now, but it came out indie about 2 months ago. I think it's a phenomenal game. I think Bloodroots is wonderful. It is very weird, and it takes a little time to get your head around what it is, because it's not what it looks like. In a lot of ways, it looks like it's going to be an isometric twin-stick shooter or a twin-stick melee game or something like that. But in reality, it is really almost like a build-your-own Jackie Chan puzzle sort of game. And I adore it. Nodog says, wait, you finished it. So wait, did you like it or not? Because it sounded like you were saying it was a cheap one-stop kill game. So wait, Nodog, you did play it, you beat it, the ending sucked, but did you like Bloodroots? It gets very repetitive. Okay, I've made it to Act 2, so maybe it'll come to a point where I just abandon it. Curtis says, Jaffe, do you think 500,000 copies is good or bad for a first-party AAA game, cough, cough, Returnal? Let's go right into it, baby. Let's go right into it.
Men lie, women lie, numbers don't.
There are two numbers that came out. PlayStation has sold 10 million, which is phenomenal. They were talking about Miles Morales, I think is at 6.5 million. But they also dropped some numbers for two games that is really what the topic of tonight's show is about, which is Sony may be becoming so successful in a specific way that they're going to actually kind of paint themselves into a corner. So they dropped numbers first off for Returnal. Returnal is one of my Game of the Year nominees. I adore that game. Phenomenal fucking game. Rightly so, Housemarque allowed itself to be acquired by Sony. It's a great relationship. They make phenomenal titles. I said when that game dropped that it was the Blade Runner of video games. And then I thought, what's up, buddy? Gimme. That's either yours or mine. Hang on, fellas. Calvin has shown. Special alert from Cal. Hang on. Oh.
It's like empty.
Oh, no. No. New package from Amazon. You got the nose rings, right?
Yeah.
Those are on your desk? This is for me, not for you. It's a stem for my pipe.
Huh.
Yeah, you don't care. Take this beast out. Thanks, buddy. You want to shut the door, bud? Thanks, Cal. Yeah, because, I broke the stem on my pipe, man. And I ordered a new one. I hope it fits. God, I hope it fits. Oh, I love my pipe, but I broke the stem because I chew on it too much. Anyway, so they dropped Returnal. I love Returnal. It's a phenomenal game. One of the best things I've played in a very, very long time. And they said, hey, fellas, it's sold about, give or take, 500,000 copies. $70 title. And look, man, I'll go on record and say that, even though I don't know, I did say it was like Blade Runner and that it was a phenomenal game. It's going to be a cult classic, but it's probably not going to do all that well. And I think that's kind of coming to bear. Think about this for a minute. So the title, I think it actually said they sold 560,000, but so let's be generous and say 600,000. So it is sold 600,000 copies. At $70, you're looking at 42 million. You're looking at $42 million. And then that 42 doesn't all go to Sony. Now, these numbers are not just like you see when you see them on the NPD or something. This is Sony releasing figures. So it's digital and it's physical, and it's as accurate as we're going to get out in the real world. So $42 million, some of that goes to retail, not as much as used to, because digital makes up the main, especially in a game like that, I would imagine. But digital makes up the lion's share. But some of it goes to retail, and then even though, yes, it's all under the Sony umbrella, your profitability at companies like this is not just like, if retail takes 10 million of it, okay, we have 32 million and it goes to the budget. No, then you've got the servers, the PSN group, you've got a bunch of different, the marketing group. There's a lot of places that have to sort of take their, to get sort of paid back before you get to profit, right? So even if retail didn't take any money, and even if the other Sony divisions didn't make any money, and all that money from 6 million copies sold went right to the bottom line of Returnal, I don't think they would be close, because you would have to have made that game for basically $42 million. It was a game that was in production for a very long time. I do not think that is going to happen. What I will tell you, though, is there is a chance for this game. And this is not like Concrete Genie. This is not like Drawn to Death. Those are games that came out, and as much as people loved both of them to an extent, more concrete than mine, than Drawn to Death, it was clear that they just didn't hit the sweet spot. Returnal's a different case. Sony has a classic on their hands. First party Sony, this is not Housemarque's fault. These are not the external producers that Sony brings in. I don't know what studio managed its fault. This is executives' fault. It is a brilliant game, and I'm not saying it would ever reach the heights of Spider-Man, which is much more mainstream. But there were the three things they should do in order to make this game, if not profitable or even meaningful profitable, they need to respect this game more because it's fucking brilliant. They need to lower the price, first off, of course. It needs to be worst case $39, best case $29 for a while, or just put the goddamn thing on PSN or PS Now and use it as a driver. But let's keep it at retail for the moment and digital. They need to sell it for $29 to $39. It needs to go to PC as fast as humanly possible. It would be wonderful if you could mod it, but let's assume that's not in the card. So going to PC, dropping the price on Returnal, and then I really think, and this is coming from a guy who loves the game, I think they need to add a difficulty mode to it. I do not think there needs to be an easy mode. I'm not suggesting make this game super easy. I think the normal mode needs to stay where it is. They should add a trophy for completing it. They should add a skin or a giveaway or whatever. But there needs to be a mode that doesn't call itself easy mode that puts, there's a couple ways you could do it. You could put a save point after boss number 2, or you could make Ember. Ember is the stuff you collect in the game. It's kind of hard to come by, and you have to collect 6 pieces of Ember in order to activate this machine that lets you clone yourself. So if you die, you can respawn from that machine and you don't have to go all the way back to the beginning. I would rather see the checkpoint or the save point. But ultimately, the problem with the game is, I get it's punishing. I get it's supposed to be punishing. I get and love how it's entwined within the structure of the actual narrative. I think it's brilliant. But I think even me, as much as I adore this game, I haven't beaten boss number 2 yet. And I know that I'm not going to come to a save point until boss number 4. And the word of mouth is out there, and people go, I don't even want to try it. I'm a guy who loves it, and I don't want to play it anymore as much as I love it, because I just know that I am not going to be able to really ever make much more progress in this game. So lower the price, make sure it goes to PC, and absolutely 100% put the goddamn thing, give it an easy mode. Don't give it a fucking, baby mode. Sorry, easy is the wrong word. Give it a normal mode and make normal hard. That would be my suggestion to Jimmy Ryan. Okay. Naughty Dog says then they buy the developer. Yeah, because they're fucking phenomenal. That's a great buy. Housemarque is phenomenal. This was not Housemarque's fault. This was Sony executives' fault. Either at the PD level, where the executive producer should have stepped in and said, look, we know you're making a roguelike, a little bit of a light, but a roguelike for the most part, and we get it, we love it. You gotta dial it back, fellas, a little bit, a little fucking bit, just like they should have done with ALLSTARS, the Battle Royale ALLSTARS, the fighting game. It's like, we know you guys are hardcore fighting game guys, we know that, but you need to dial this back a little bit, because you're gonna hurt our chances.
Pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
There's another number that dropped though, and they're both troubling though. They're both troubling. The Ratchet & Clank numbers dropped. They have sold in a month a little over 1 million copies, okay? Now that's obviously better than Returnal did.
Well then, this would be more, wouldn't it?
Really, Jaffe? Do you think 1 million is more than 500,000, Jaffe, you moron? Ratchet & Clank sold about 1 million copies. Ratchet & Clank sold for $70, so obviously there were 70 million. Obviously, as we said, that's not all profit by any means. It spreads out, but even if it was 70, I don't think that game was only 70 million. Even before Sean Layden left, he was saying that PS4 games were costing 120 to like 170 million. And PS5 games are going up higher, right? Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, phenomenal game. I call it a classic. I think it's one of the probably the prettiest game I've ever played in my life. It was a joy to play from beginning to end. Just excellent game. One of the best pieces of just mainstream video game entertainment I've ever seen. Fucking phenomenal. This is a game that was made in Burbank, and it was also made in North Carolina. So it's not like, well, yeah, but we made it with the cheap team. I don't mean they were the B team like they're shitty. because they have done some of the Ratchets before. I mean, the cheap team, like, cost of living is less in North Carolina, so I don't assume they pay their people as much. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know. But regardless, though, they're in North Carolina and Burbank. It was all hands on deck for this game well, not all hands, but most hands on deck with this game. So the budget's high. You're dealing with a million sales. I don't know what your break even is, but they certainly haven't acquired that or reached that break even if you're saying 70 million is all they've made so far. I want you to look at your screen for a second. So this is an a tweet I got from both these guys follow me. Tony Palanaco, I guess is a games writer, games journalist. He says, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart only selling 1 million disturbs me. I thought the game would have sold 2 to 3 million easily in the first month, and you can't say the install base isn't there either, because it most certainly is. What are people playing on their PS5s? This confounds me. And then Sklari wrote me and said, hey, Jaffe, do you have an explanation? And I kind of do have an explanation, or I have a theory, okay? And the theory is, I would be surprised if Sony was surprised by this. Right, Zaf has it exactly. Ratchet & Clank was never a big seller. That's exactly correct. And people are confused by it because if you look at this, this is a really interesting chart, by the way. If you're just curious, I'll put it in the chat. These are the top. This is as of this year, as of February 2021. These are the top 10 PlayStation selling franchises. So Spyro at 20 million, SingStar 20 million, Spider-Man. This is Spider-Man before Miles Morales is included at 21 million because Spider-Man itself is already at 20. Last of Us, 24 million. These are franchises. Now, Ratchet & Clank, 26 million. This is why people get a little confused with what do you mean? Why didn't Ratchet do better? Here's what's interesting. So Spider-Man, for example, take Spider-Man. Spider-Man gets to 21 million with one game. The Last of Us gets to 24 million with 2 games, or 2.5 games if you include the remaster that came over from PS4 to PS5. Uncharted is a massive jump to 44 million. So how in the world is this at 26 million? Well, it's at 26 million because if you look at your screen, the number, I would say this series, the number of games they have made in the Ratchet & Clank series, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you're looking at almost 20. Almost 20 fucking games, right? So spread across those titles, sure. It sold a lot as a franchise, but one by one individually, I don't think they do as well as people expect. And that was kind of a surprise to me as well. But I don't know. It must look. Sony's got all of this history of how many Ratchet & Clank games they've released. They must know which way the wind blows on this series. I don't think they were thinking it was going to be an Uncharted game in terms of sales, certainly not a Spider-Man game. So my assumption is that they budgeted accordingly. I can't imagine they wouldn't have. Here's the bigger point, though. Both of these games are absolutely phenomenal. 2 of the best things that I have played all year long. They are just great fucking games, okay? Somebody says, Magic Circle says, dude, people still can't get PS5s. Those numbers are nothing before the market is saturated. The problem with that, though, if you're going to use there's not enough PS5s for people to buy, right? So if you're going to use that kind of fuzzy math of, well, what would it be like if there were a larger number of PlayStation 5s out there, then you really have to look at Miles Morales Spider-Man on PS5. The PS5 version of Miles Morales, not combined with PS4, the PS5 version of Miles Morales did double the sales in the first month that Ratchet & Clank did in the first month. And I get it. People were like, yeah, but Miles Morales PS5 was a $50 game. Okay, but if you're going to use that, you also have to factor in the fact that Miles Morales launched day one with PS5, and in the first month, PS5 sold 3.4 million hardware units. On the day that Ratchet & Clank came out, there were 8 million PS5 hardware units. So I assume both of those things come out in the wash. I mean, the fact is Spider-Man is a much bigger brand than Ratchet & Clank. And in that, I think that really comes down to the point, which is Spider-Man appeals to the target audience of PlayStation 5 users and just PlayStation users in general. It's the consumer that likes the amazing graphics, the cinematic adventures, power fantasies, and the storytelling, and these things that frankly are amazing, and no one does it better than Sony first party, but it's also probably one of the most expensive genres that you can choose to take on. And Ratchet doesn't fit into that. Sony has never been able to crack this market, the kid market. Or the family market. They've tried with Ratchet and Jak and Daxter and Sly Cooper. They've tried with Puppeteer. They've tried with Sumo's, what's called the Sackboy Little Big Planet Adventure, which was a great fucking game on PS5. And, you know, most of them are profitable. Most of them do well. But they're not sitting up there with the Spideys and the Uncharteds and the God of Wars and the Last of Us of the world. And I think in that, Sony has really painted themselves into a really tricky corner. Similarly with Returnal. Returnal and Ratchet represent the kind of games that, as budgets go up, you really have to be the master of that domain, not just in terms of making the games great, but in having an audience that owns your hardware that gravitates to those kinds of games. Returnal would have probably done much better on PC. Ratchet, of course, would have done much better on Nintendo systems because it's not like the audiences don't like those games. Check out Nintendo. Danny Sullivan in the chat says, I like kiddie games and M-rated games. I appreciate that. But ultimately, look at this. Super Mario Odyssey sells 2 million in the first 3 days. The first 3 days. I'm just saying that audience is already accounted for. And if Sony keeps saying our shit's super expensive, Spider-Man 2 we know is coming, God of War Ragnarok we know is coming, we know Horizon Forbidden West is coming. The good news is Sony's about to have a fucking amazing 12, 18 months, whenever. I mean, we know that God of War and Horizon will be out sooner than that. I'm sure they will announce Spider-Man 2 pretty soon. And so for Sony to continue succeeding where they succeed, they're off to the fucking races. These are going to be big, massive hits for them. But ultimately, what this launch group of titles has to be teaching these guys is Ratchet and Clank has always, like, I think it was Sumo, somebody in the chat said, historically, those games haven't ever sold. They've sell between 1 and 3 million right here, but the budgets are going up. A game as amazing and brilliant as Returnal, at least for $70, unless they change some things, didn't really connect. Sackboy didn't really connect. Destruction ALLSTARS, which we are going to talk about a little bit later in the show, so far hasn't really connected. If you're Sony, I imagine the lesson, I could be wrong on this, but it seems like the lesson you would take is let's keep doing what's working. What's working is Uncharted, it's The Last of Us, it's God of War, it's these big expensive takes, these big cinematic takes that we know is going to deliver us to the promised land. But the problem with that is you paint yourself into a corner with that. I mean, I know they're trying some other things. I know that Jade Raymond's game is smaller, it's more of a service game, and I'm sure they'll get there. I hear Guerrilla's working on a multiplayer shooter. I'm sure they'll get there. But I don't know how much the appetite I mean, maybe the appetite doesn't matter if they have the appetite. They got to be looking at the tea leaves and going, we have got to start making money outside of this very lucrative but very specific niche, because the audience isn't growing, the budgets are growing, and sooner or later it's not going to be sustainable. There you go. So that's the point. That's the point. Hey, I went deep because this is me from the future recording and editing, and I want to just let you know, if you're in the audience going, okay, now I can stop the deep thing. If you're in the audience going, but what do you mean the audience isn't growing? Gaming's bigger than ever. You may have missed it on the stream, but whenever I talk about that, I'm citing facts and figures from Sean Layton and different places in the industry that say since PS2, the console market hasn't grown. Cell phones have grown, PCs have grown, more money is being made. But the number of gamers is roughly around 200 to 300 million for console games. And that really isn't changing. It's changing in terms of who's getting what percentage of that pie of core console gamers. But the pie isn't getting any bigger. Okay, so let's go back to the past now. Let me go to the chat. By the way, Ace was barking because we ordered DoorDash from 7-Eleven. If you're listening and not watching, I have a cherry Slurpee. Rohan, it is Jaffe. What do you think the problem is, though? I mean, no one, it's 500,000 copies after what, 3 months is not.
I think $70 hurt it. I think that perception out there of the games are now $70. That is going to hurt some of these titles, especially for games that the difficulty of it, that was really the topic of conversation when the game was out. So, the game's too hard, it's really unforgiving, it's too brutal. I don't think people were willing to kind of jump into that. I think it's both of those things. I don't know what else it could be.
Okay, but how do you think they survive that then? Because if they lower their prices and they're basically saying that our prices are what they are because budgets are going up, you know, you and I both really enjoyed playing Returnal. We love that game. It sounds like both of us did. Would you have enjoyed it as much if maybe it didn't look as good or sound as good and they didn't spend as much money on it?
Well, see, then you get yourself in trouble, because if the game doesn't look as good, if it doesn't justify, hey, you know, this is a PS5 game, right? And it looks like, hey, I could play this on PS4. You know, then you get that crowd, you know, you get that knock against it. So I don't know. I think they're in a tight spot.
All right, Rohan, thank you for the call as always, buddy. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so Curtis says it wasn't $70 with the issue. If Dark Souls 4 came out and sold, it would sell for 70. It would sell. Yeah, but that's now got a brand though, right? And somebody else was saying Returnal sold 500,000 due to media coverage of it being difficult and hard to play. That will only appeal to a certain audience. Are Souls rogue games notorious for selling millions? Certain rogue games are. I think Hades sold really fucking well, but it didn't cost as much as Returnal. Souls games took a while to catch on, but yeah, I mean, Bloodborne is over 2 million, which is not a massive hit. But again, that's not even the point. Of course, it's a niche title. The question is, did Returnal have to be the super niche title that it was? If they would have made just a few changes, tune it a little easier, don't charge as much for it, and it didn't cost as much to make as the massive titles. So at that point, they could sort of prove still. These are the days that I do miss working at Sony, because I would love to sit in on those meetings where they do a post-mortem on Returnal and Ratchet and Sackboy and whatnot, and go, what lessons did they take? And how are those lessons going to be applied to games going forward? It's always been an interesting question. The High Wire Act keeps getting harder and harder and higher off the ground, and thus the drama of it and the curiosity of it, at least for the way my brain works, simply gets more excited about the whole question. All right, let's move on to Sweet Night. Sweet Night, what's up, bud?
Oh, I was just going to ask the question. Do you think Sony's kind of first party lineup, the ones that sell really good, are pretty well essentially the same game? They're very Assassin's Creed-y. They're third-person open world games. Do you think they've almost trained their audience to kind of expect or want those experiences when you see stuff that's a little bit more, say, creative, like Ratchet and Clank or Returnal, not selling as well as their kind of Assassin's Creed style design?
I think there's a big conversation that is probably just starting to ramp up about needing to grow not the audience of gamers. We know that there are cell phone gamers and all that shit, but the idea that there is this gulf between you're either hardcore and you're comfortable, not even hardcore, but you're kind of a gamer and you're comfortable with that title, and you're comfortable with the controller, and you're comfortable with these kinds of games like you're saying, Assassin's Creed and whatnot, or you're just good with Candy Crush. But it's weird there's not a mid-level where really most people live, or at least when you look at other mediums. And so I think one of the things Sony, and that's what I'm saying, I think Sony is ruling the roost right now, and they should be thrilled they're ruling the roost. But ultimately, I think you're absolutely right. There is someone, and it might be Sony, is going to come along and figure out how to bring that massive group of people who aren't playing games right now. I think, like I said, the estimate is between 250 and 350 million split across all the consoles every generation going back to 1994. And if you don't grow that, they're going to be in trouble. So I do think that What Sony has done is Sony has done exactly what I think most people would do, is they found a sweet spot where they excel, they're phenomenal, but now it's starting to get too expensive to stay there if they don't have other things to offset the cost, right? Northy Tunes is Jaffe. What's up, buddy?
Hey, so I'm just kind of wondering about, is there an issue that the range of game developers and people who sort of want to come up with these sort of like AAA big sort of video games are kind of stuck with their influences of their childhood of like watching 80s cartoons and things like that we're not really hip enough with the youth of today?
Know if it's a subject matter issue. I think honestly it has more to do at this point with the kind of things that gamers are demanding if you're talking about the price point we're talking about. I don't think Returnal would have sold better if it wasn't about a person who crashed on a planet and it was sci-fi themed. Because the best-selling movies of all time are sci-fi fantasy themed. The most watched TV series, for the most part, are things like Game of Thrones, and people talk about Westworld and stuff. So I don't think it's that it's too geeky for the room. I think it's honestly has to do with it's very hard until someone comes in and shows us how to do it. It's almost like we need this generation's Miyamoto to come in and say, okay, you guys have been making and playing games for a long time at this level that are more skill-based. We need to do some stuff that allows them to still be mentally engaging, but we've got to find a way to get more people in if you guys want to keep seeing these production values. Somebody in the chat saying, yeah, the number of people who played Fortnite, 500 million. 500 million. You know, there's definitely people out there that are gaming, and Sony's not benefiting from that. Microsoft's not benefiting from that. And I'm sure they must be worried about it. Well, Microsoft's benefiting from it because they own Minecraft, but Sony doesn't have any of that shit. Bacon Magma says, the problem you claim they have is clearly not a problem for them since they're the market leader. Buddy, don't you understand? Don't you understand how this works? I hate this quote because it gets overused. But I'm going to use it because it is incredibly appropriate. Wayne Gretzky says he was great, not because he skated where the puck was, but he went where the puck was going to be. Okay? That's the exact same thing Iwata from Nintendo quoted when he was talking about how they realized they couldn't compete with the technology of Microsoft and Sony, and so they had to come up with something different, which was the Wii and the dual screen. Okay? Of course they're the market leader now. No shit. That's not the point. The point is, as the industry changes, as gamer tastes change, as budgets change, are they going to be able to stay the market leader simply by doing what they've been doing now for the last 3 generations? Or are they going to have to adjust? You never stay on top forever. Certainly if you stop innovating, you don't. Saad Khan says, why was Sony touting Returnal as a mega hit? This is one of those things. This is semantics, right? Is it a hit for Sony? From a certain definition, was it a success? Sure. It's a prestige game. It probably will get a number of Game of the Year awards. They probably look at it and go, eventually it will become profitable, eventually. And in that fits under the umbrella of successful. Was it successful in the same way that The Last of Us Part 2 was? No. And so you can say these things just like Jim Ryan, marketing speak, exactly, superior soundtracks. It's just like Jim Ryan can say, we believe in generations, and you won't be able to play the kind of games on PS4 that you can play on PS5. That's not a lie, but it's absolutely spin. Saltiest says, why would they buy a developer that failed? I don't think they failed. I don't think they look at it like they failed. They made Blade Runner. They made one of the best games of the generation, first time up to bat that they made a game this way. It's always been arcadey shit before that. This is a brilliant fucking game. I have to assume it was a consistent debate amongst that team and the team at Sony, their producers, about how hard to make this, about how punishing to make this. And my guess would be that there was a point where they brought up Demon Souls and all that, and they're like, look, this is what the gamers want. And those triggers were pulled, and that was put out. That and maybe the price were 2 of the biggest failings of that game. I think they look at it and go, if we only would have done this and that and the other, and hopefully they will. That's what they need to do on this game, make those changes. I think it could be a hit, but I think they look at them and go, they'll get it next time because we will have learned. Brian E. says, keep in mind, Jaffe, this was the first AAA from Housemarque. By definition, I think they believed Housemarque did well. Housemarque did phenomenally well. I'd never have played a game as assured as Returnal. That was a developer's first game. I know it wasn't their first game at all. They've been in business for a very long time. But in terms of that kind of game and that scope and that camera, that it wasn't like an arcade game, you would have thought they were Insomniac. It was so assured and it was so well made and it was so clever that no. I'm not taking the piss at all. All right, let's move on though. We're not all going to agree. That's my take. We'll see. I don't have to be right, but I probably am. Okay, that should go on my gravestone. Not that I'll have a gravestone, but.
Spanish fly was the thing, and you put it in a drink, and the girl would drink it, and she's yours. Hello, America.
We're going to talk about Activision a little bit. We're not going to spend too much time on Activision, but I want to mention a couple of things that have happened. This picture fascinated me. You guys already know all about this. This is the Cosby suite. If you can't see what I'm talking about, it's a picture of all these like guys, mostly in their early 20s, mid 20s, it looks like, and they're all on this bed in this hotel room, and they're kind of laughing and smiling and acting fools, and there's a giant frame picture of Bill Cosby. It was 2013 when this picture was taken. This is where a bunch of the World of Warcraft team from Blizzard went, and who knows what happened there, but they had parties there and alcohol there, and so you gotta be careful with this picture. It's not like, this picture isn't like the rape room. A lot of people are thinking about this like it's the rape room. I don't know what happened there, but I know that there was a lot of bad shit going on at Blizzard and Activision, and calling something the Cosby room and saying, let's get some girls up here and let's do this and that and the other. At least it kind of implies. And you can get into a whole thing about when people knew about Bill Cosby, and the Blizzard guys are saying, oh, it had nothing to do with the fact that he was found to be a rapist. It was everything about his sweaters, and the ugly sweaters he wore on the Cosby Show looked like the carpeting in one of the conference rooms or the hotel room that Blizzard used. It sounds like horseshit, because in 2013, this guy, Cosby, was known to be potentially problematic with his dealings with women and roofies and all that. The first allegations were like back in 2002. But okay, even if they were literally talking about crazy sweaters, it's irrelevant. What was happening at Blizzard, and what we're learning was probably happening at Blizzard and Activision, allegedly again, was not good. And for better or for worse, this picture and these guys are kind of taking on the face of that era, which clearly seems to still be going on, sadly. Well, I found this today. I don't remember who put this out, but this is a Where Are They Now? And this Where Are They Now image, because this was 2013, so what are we, 8 years from this, is basically pointing to each one of them and saying, are they still in the industry? And lo and behold, everyone except one was fired from Blizzard, who's kind of the heart of some of these allegations. This Alex Afrasiabi was fired, but what these fellows have gone on to: VP at Riot Games, game director at Blizzard, creative director at Deviation Games, lead designer at Blizzard, on and on and on. So clearly, whatever they did in the past, if they did anything in the past, I kind of am inclined to assume at least some of them did. Karma hasn't caught up to them yet. But looking at this picture definitely got me thinking. I was in the business in my early 20s, mid 20s, and shit went down. It wouldn't fly today, and it shouldn't, rightly so. Shit that today that at best would be embarrassing and at worst would get us fucking fired and thrown under the bus, as it should. I mean, we never had like a Cosby suite or anything, and I never did anything that these folks were alleged or anything close to what people are saying that happens at Blizzard. But I look at this picture and I go, if the circumstances were different, if Sony wasn't such a well-run, respectful company. And again, I can't speak to Sony at large or even PlayStation at large, but I never was aware of this sort of stuff going on. And that may have been by design. I don't know. But you hear from the Blizzard people, and it sounds like this was a very obvious thing that was happening, and it was just sort of a company-wide secret. But that wasn't the culture at Sony. I didn't have any awareness of anything happening institutionally. But yeah, the stuff at Activision, Blizzard, and Ubisoft, man, I mean, it's not just the guys in this picture. Stories are just exploding from those companies about how shitty they were to their people. There was a story today about a Blizzard employee or an Activision employee that installed a camera in the bathroom so he could spy on people in the goddamn stalls. IGN had a great report. A lot of Blizzard people walked out yesterday in what I would consider a useless show of solidarity. It was nice, I guess, but unless you're going to strike, it's just performative. Doesn't mean they didn't have genuine reasons to be furious. Of course they do. But you got to hit these companies where they hurt, and a walkout doesn't do shit. If you're back at work the next day, making the milestone for World of Warcraft or Hearthstone, great. So basically, everybody had a day off, and you lost a tick on the schedule, but you let some air out of the tire. You release some tension. I mean, that's probably how upper management looks at it. And the fucking PR people, they're horrible. There's a story in IGN about a woman who literally wasn't allowed to go to the doctor when she had pregnancy complications. And of course, Blizzard, HR, PR, same goddamn thing in this case probably is just like, oh, that's not our policy. Fuck off, man. If you also look over, Ubisoft today also signed a letter backing Activision and also saying, hey, all these people like Yves Guillemot, who runs Ubisoft, saying, oh, we're changing. We've made so many changes, blah, 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 blah. Well, there have been a number of reports in the last couple of months saying they haven't done nearly enough. Well, today, there's over 500 people signed a letter demanding that they get rid of offenders at Ubisoft and they have new reporting processes, meaning basically that no, Guillemot, you guys haven't done shit, right? So you have over 3,000 people signing the Activision complaint who work at Blizzard Activision. You've got the Ubisoft stuff. Now, here's what's interesting to me about this. There's two things about this that interest me. The first one is, I always say unions in video games are really challenging because the people who want to form unions in games struggle with leverage. Like, what are they going to say to the companies? What are you going to say to Sony, to Activision, to Ubisoft, to Nintendo about that's going to get them to go, oh shit, if we don't do what you say, we're going to suffer. These people weren't striking. They signed a letter. Big deal. They walked out for a day in protest. Big deal. Ultimately, one would think that if this kind of moment doesn't get a lot of people to unionize, I don't know what it's going to take, right? But the problem with it is they don't have any leverage because even my guess would be even if they walked out, they could still lure back in a bunch of the key people. And the other people, I mean, we had a guy call into the stream the other day who's like dying to go into AAA. There's so many people who are just willing to rush in to take the places of the people who walk out. And even if that doesn't happen, I don't know really what kind of punishment Ubisoft was literally called to the mat over a year ago about their alleged sexual harassment, sexual assault, toxic work environment. People are saying it's not any better. Signal says, I'll be honest, a lot of it feels like nerds who got too much power and had no clue how to act around women. I kind of think that's true. Snake says, I await evidence. Of course, Snake. No one is saying they should go to jail tomorrow or they should lose the case tomorrow. But I think at the same time, it's a company that has a history. And it's a company now where you literally have 3,000 plus people that work at the company signing letters going, no, it's as bad as people are saying. Come on. To act like, oh, there's no reason that you should think the wind is blowing a certain way, I don't think that's true. No. They're innocent until proven guilty, Dara7, in a court of law. But in the court of public opinion, you make your bed and you lie in it. To act like, oh, we should just stand back and have no opinion when there's all of this evidence and there's all of these people literally on the record signing and risking their jobs and saying, this is what's happening. I don't agree with you that you're not allowed to have an opinion. Yeah, Brian says the execs tried to play it off by saying the state of California was exaggerating and misrepresenting the case. And all the employees are like, no, they're not. Come on. To act like there's no smoke and fire there, come on. I don't know what's going to change, right? I don't know if anything's actually going to change. I don't know what that means, Destroyer. Destroyer says, you talk a lot of shit, sir. What shit am I talking? I'll wait because I need to slow down for a minute before we move on. I'll wait. What shit do I talk? I'm waiting, Destroyer. Come on now. All right, Destroyer's not writing shit. He says, Jaffe, you talk a lot of shit. I say, all right, let's talk about that, buddy. What shit do I talk? Where'd he go? Where'd he go, fellas? He vanished into the night like a coward. Yeah, just even Bacon I agree with. Bacon says, the Destroyer, please tell him the shit he's talking. I'm waiting. I'm taking a break with my Slurpee. Come on, baby. Now that I do this podcast, I can edit all this shit out.
Never stop. Never stop fighting till the fight is done.
What do you say? What do you say?
I said never stop fighting till the fight is done.
I want to talk about two games that are trying to claw their way back to Destruction All-Stars arrives today, a July update. Now, I barely clicked on this. What does that even mean? I almost didn't click on this because I'm like, whatever. I'm over this game. I enjoyed it for about 3 days, and then it kind of got... All it got was sort of, I was like, it's good, it's really well made, but I was like, it's, there's not enough stickiness to it, right? And so I was kind of skimming this, but I was like, okay, this is interesting. I don't know if it's too little, too late, and I don't know if it's going to make a difference. But they are addressing they're putting some skins and this, that, and the other. But these guys are putting some. I'm going to re-download it and I'm going to play it because these changes I do think are meaningful. I don't think it means the game is going to necessarily be any stickier. There's no meta to it, and I don't mean meta like kids use it today. There's no like leveling up and upgrading. As far as I remember, there's none of that shit. So that may ultimately be why it's not long for the world. But that said, though, here's some good changes they are making. Ghost Hits has been one of the problems, which I'm stunned this was not brought up at the very beginning of development. We were working on a game when Bartlett Jones shut down that had to do with, without giving away too much because I'm not allowed to, with constantly applying forces to an object. So imagine like water or air. It was about multiple people trying to manipulate the object by constantly applying, let's just say wind, by blowing and sucking and moving this thing around, okay? Well, it's much easier online to track a missile, right? It's easier to go, I fire it on my machine. All the game has to know is you fired it from this point, and the actual logic of that missile is happening locally on the other guy's machine. So it checks once to go, oh, Jaffe fired the missile at this point. Once the missile's out, we can do all the calculations on the other guy's computer. But when you're talking about ramming, or you're talking about constantly checking for a force, those things become a lot harder to accurately convey over network games. In a lot of ways, like we had a programmer telling us, is like, I don't think we can make this game. He was saying to us, we can try to find some solves for this, but I'm telling you, your fundamental mechanic functionally doesn't really work that well over the internet. And he was right. I'm surprised this game got as far as it did without somebody going, your whole game is based on ramming. You don't have weapons. You don't have projectiles. You don't have, it's simply collision, simply touching the other car. Well, they made the game, and one of their biggest problems has been ghost hits, which if you don't know what that means, is you're driving around and suddenly your health bar goes from 100 to 70. And you're like, what the fuck happened? Well, what the fuck happened was somebody hit you on their screen, but you didn't see it reflected on your screen. And in a game that's all about ramming, you can't do that, right? I mean, and so that drove a lot of people away. So they've noodled with it. It's clear it's not perfect, but they're saying it's a lot better. Phenomenal. Great. I'm excited for that alone. Shay is saying, let's do a game night, All-Stars. Absolutely. I want to. Here's another one that I think is a great, you got to be careful with designers, man. You got to be careful with designers. And I'm a designer, or I was. I get it. So what they were doing is if you wanted to ram and actually have it mean something in this game, you had to sort of cool down your ram attack and wait before you could hit it. I know you could hit somebody and do some damage, but it was on a timer that you could really go in there and really make an impact. And I could see the designer going, well, let's make it really not stingy with it, but let's make it meaningful. So there's a real risk reward aspect to it, and you have to get really good at it. And I get it from a design standpoint, but what it did was it really decimated the shallow end of this game, which is when you're driving around, what you want to do in this game is ram the fuck out of people. And you want to hit people. That's what it is. It's a demolition derby game. And they're like, well, we're going to put that behind a timer. So if you do it and you miss, which you will do, because it's hard to ram another object. That's why missiles work great in online games, because you can add a little kind of cheating to it, a little bit of a magnetism, right? Well, it's hard to line up when you're going this fast and actually get a ram and someone's trying to avoid you. So you're going to miss a lot at first. And you're going to miss a lot because the ghost hits. Well, on this new upgrade, they've said we're going to take that timer, and it's still there, but we're going to make the cooldown a lot less punishing. And they're saying now with that, you're getting a lot more chaos, a lot more rams. That's a great change. Another thing that for whatever reason didn't launch today, will launch in a couple of weeks, is they've got 2 levels where they've taken the arenas and they've made them smaller. And in that, they've increased the frequency of engagement and collisions and smashing each other, right? So in a lot of ways, I could see it. I've been on teams like this. I've been on games like this where it really feels like, I'm not saying this is what happened, but I'm pretty sure it seems like this would have happened on a game like this. You've got the surface of the game that some of the people are going, dude, just open up the fucking valve. Let people have fucking fun. They want to smash, they want to ram, they want to destroy things. That's the fantasy that you're selling them. And then you've got the design mentality that says, no, I know that's fun, but that's dessert. They have to have the meal first. They have to get their nutrition first, right? And I get that as well, because ultimately, if you just build the shallow into the pool, the game isn't sticky anyway, right? And especially a game's not sticky when you don't have the meta I was talking about, and you have a shallow moment-to-moment game. I think ultimately what happened is, though, whoever won that argument was clearly the design mentality, and I think it was proven wrong. And I think these 3 major changes for this update are saying we're going to retune this and we're going to tune it for more of a mainstream experience, which I think is very exciting. I think it is very exciting to see, because again, I don't want to oversell it, but when you read this on the PlayStation blog, this really is it's almost like playing a different game. I mean, they're really changing the cadence and the pacing and the rhythm of this thing. And I want to give it a shot. I'm excited about it. If it's good, we will do it for a game night. Is it a little too late? Maybe, possibly, probably. But we'll give it a shot.
Give me your fucking money!
Magnum, thank you for the super chat. He says, how does it work in an online fighting game? Hang on a second. You're talking about the collision and stuff? Well, I've never made an online fighting game. What I can tell you is I did speak with the online network programmer who did the melee combat on God of War Ascension, the multiplayer. I tried to hire him for Drawn to Death, but he was starting his own company, and it is a very big can of worms. It is a very big problem. It's not that it's not solvable. You have to specialize in it. If I was a betting fella, I would give ALLSTARS a 25% chance of coming back from the dead. Maybe that's even being generous. This game, though, I just think this is done. I think, I've been on a game, Drawn to Death, which was absolutely I knew and Nick knew within the first 5 days it was a failure. And I was fascinated that when I called the Sony folks and I was like expressing my concern, either they were lying, trying to make us feel better, or they didn't see it. But I was like, guys, this isn't working. And they're like, these are good numbers. I'm like, no, they're really not. But anyway, point being, I've been on a team where it's dead and you're still developing for it. It's very depressing. It's very hard to motivate yourself. So Avengers comes out. So here's the Avengers roadmap, right? I bring this up just because my theory is this thing's done. I don't think they've announced any expansions beyond War for Wakanda, which is coming out, I think, any day now. In fact, did it come out today? But basically, you're seeing these jumps. $1,800 went up to $2,000, and then it dropped. And then $2,500 went up to $2,700, and then it dropped. And now it's at $3,000. I don't think new content will save Avengers, no. And I like it. It's really well made. I like the art. Playing the Hulk is a lot of fun. You guys know I love the theme. But I don't know, man. I think it's a dead game walking. And I think this is the absolute last thing that we're going to see from it. Someone's asking, why would you make a game, keep working on it if you know it's dead, says Mr. Rob. Well, again, I mean, there is a commitment, financially. They've got an amount of runway that they have budgeted for. I imagine they've committed contractually to Marvel. Square Enix has said, look, we're going to give this X number of months. To all of these games' credit, it's nice to see people trying shit. It's nice to see the all-star guys hanging in there and saying, we're gonna make some big changes, and let's see what happens. But in this game, though, I mean, it doesn't sound like they ever really addressed the real issue, which is it was just boring. The fighting was really cool, but after an hour or two, it was just very repetitive. And the meta loop that was going to get you grinding and shit was not addictive enough for most people. I mean, those numbers, man, these numbers, what are we, less than a year since this thing launched? It doesn't matter, though. These days, there's so much competition in free-to-play that they could go free-to-play and they'll get a big bump. Just like they got a big bump when Hawkeye came out. They got a big bump when the Red Room came out. They'll get a big bump when Wakanda comes out. And this one is there's a new story point to it. So this is probably the beefiest one they're doing. And they'll get a big bump. And then it'll go right back to where it was. Look what happens when you don't support a game after release. Look at Anthem, says Anthony. Well, yeah, but they did support it. I mean, this is supporting it. It was just not what people wanted. Bacon Magma, you're right. I was wrong. Look, here's what I said about Avengers last year. I said it was going to be the best-selling game of the year. And I believed that because I didn't say it was the best game of the year. It wasn't in my top 10. I gave it like an 8 for me because I'm a Marvel fanboy, but for everybody else, it was like a 6, and I believe that. And I said it was like a Lego game. If you love the brand, it's a blast, but not for that long. If you don't like the brand, it's a slog. And I thought because of the license, because of that opening on the bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge, people were going to play it, kids were going to play it and go, oh my God, this is the superhero fantasy that every kid has had. Be you a kid or an adult. I did. I absolutely thought that it was going to be a huge seller. But I was totally wrong on that. Absolutely.
No, please, don't leave me.
All right, I want to talk about Neil Druckmann for a minute. I have a theory and I have some information, and all this kind of comes together with this news story. I'm not going to tell you who said it, but it's certainly, I can't tell you who said it. But I will tell you that if I told you who it was, you'd go, oh my God. And I'd say, yeah. So this person's in the know. But the news first, though, is The Last of Us HBO series planned for 8 seasons, budgets upward of $200 million per year, right? So what is that? 2, 4, 6, 8, I mean, over $1 billion. Hugely expensive. The pilot, as I've said before, is the most expensive pilot HBO has ever shot. This is the big time, kids. So I'm talking to this source that you would know. You know, we're just talking about Sony and video games and all this stuff. One of the things that came up was this concern, philosophy, this idea of what would happen if Sony, because the budgets are going so big, Sony really isn't able to take the kind of creative chances that allow the people who are creatively satisfied at Sony to continue to enjoy working there. And I will tell you that this person, I'm not going to name the name of the game, but there was a hit game that came out recently, and this person said that game would not be greenlit at today's Sony, right? And you would be stunned to hear the name of that game. And I think this person is correct. The thing the other guy said was that I was talking about this, and I said, you know, if I'm Neil Druckmann and what you're saying is right, and of course he's right, or if I'm Cory Barlog or whatever, and I can't get that game that you just mentioned greenlit, and I'm only able to get the shit greenlit that is just the most pedestrian shit, and I'm Neil Druckmann, and I'm working on, because I said it, you know, Neil would have to be really involved in the show, and I don't know how involved he is, and this guy would know, and he says, oh, Neil is very involved in the show. He's got his hands, it's not like he's just like a backseat producer and he's working at Naughty Dog 24/7 and every now and then they send him a script. Apparently he's deep in the weeds with this. Fucking Neil Druckmann on this goddamn thing? Shit. You get this kind of creative freedom, this kind of money, this kind of budget, and then you go back to Sony and pitch something and they say, no, it's no, we can't do it. I wouldn't stick around. That's my theory. So my prediction is, within 18 months, Neil Druckmann will have left Naughty Dog, will have left Sony. That's my prediction. I could be wrong. Somebody put it on a board. Put it on a board. I'm not going to tell you what game it was, Cosmic, but it wasn't that one. It wasn't that one.
Xbox on!
All you people who think all I do is love on Xbox, A, you're wrong. I love on things I'm enjoying. Right now, I'm enjoying Xbox, but I just told you I thought Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart's a classic. A classic. Returnal's a game of the year. You don't want to hear that, though. You're either, with you guys, you're like hardcore Democrats or hardcore Republicans. You're either all in with you guys or there is no shades of gray. I can't be nuanced about what I think about video games. I have to either love Sony and hate Xbox or the opposite. Well, I'm not like that. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. So here's something interesting. Now, I don't have a problem with this because I don't care about this game. But to all you people looking for some red meat to throw at Sony and say, haha, fuck you, Xbox, this did come out today. This was interesting. That, you know, one of the things that a lot of people are saying with Xbox is But to be fair, today they came out and said we are going to have to get rid of Forza Motorsport 7, and it's going away. But it's not going away, though, for the reason, like, they want to take it away to get you to buy it. It's going away because, frankly, the licenses are up. They don't have the rights to all these cars anymore, at least in this game. And whether or not they want to renegotiate or they only have the rights to put it in Forza Motorsport 8, I don't know. All I'm telling you is that for all you guys looking for a reason to hate more on Xbox Game Pass, here's one, which is, hey, you're losing a game from Game Pass, and they said they wouldn't. And I, believe it or not, I'm bringing this up because I've seen a number of people online today using this like a, haha, Xbox sucks, I told you. And I'm like, okay. Although it's interesting, though. Jonathan says all car games have licensing problems eventually. What they should do moving forward, and I don't know how easy this is. I know when we made Twisted Metal, we definitely used cars that were on the market, but we would mix and match them. So Legal would ask us, like, well, what is Spectre? And we're like, okay, well, Spectre has the front of a Corvette from 1963, I think, but it's got the back of a whatever, right? And that's how we kind of dealt with not having licensed cars, but they felt like cars you've seen before, okay? I'd be stunned if they didn't start going, you know what, we're going to license the Ferrari Testarossa, but we're going to make enough legal changes to it so that when the license expires, all we have to do is swap out these models and we're able to keep the game going. But I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm going to tell you something, though. Here's something that Xbox has that Sony doesn't have. And if you're a Sony fanboy only, it sucks to be you. Boom. Krispy Kreme is coming out with Xbox donuts. Let me tell you what's in this goddamn thing. It is a donut with brownie mix. Not brownie made. Mix. Liquid. Brownie fucking mix in the center with white powdered sugar and lime frosting. It doesn't taste like lime. It's just green. It's the lime coloring. In a glazed donut underneath. Think about that. Think about that. You can go into Krispy Kreme, get yourself Xbox donuts. You can win Xboxes. You can win Game Pass. Blah, 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 blah. It's not coconut. No, it's all sugar, baby. I will say, though, that Future Jeffy again. You know what? Here's what I'll say. I'm a Game Pass fanboy. I am. Right now, I'm loving my game. I'm loving my Xbox Series X. Yeah, fine, DDP. Fuck you, man. I don't even care. I love video games. If I can't get your tip of the hat because I love games at the moment that aren't on the system you love, then fuck off. I can't deal with you people anymore. I just can't. Go away. You know, I'm making a video right now that is, so, I don't know what the title is, but the gist of it is 10 things that only gamers over 30 can understand. And one of them is, when I was a kid, my best friend's name was Carrie, still one of my best friends. And he had an Intellivision, and I had an Atari. And we didn't fight. We didn't care. You know what's fun? Going over to Carrie's house was fun, because I could play Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Because I could play Mattel football. He came over to my house where he could play Indy 500 and Warlords, right? What's wrong with some of you people? Fuck is wrong with some of you people? It's like, my God, man. I can't handle it anymore. I know people think I'm taking the bait, but it's really gross, man. Yeah, David Douglas says he's 53, never understood console tribalism. Me neither. Wicked says, I miss gaming days like that as kids. It was great. That's right. It was a marketing thing. That's right. But Jesus Christ, you're not children anymore. You're able to recognize the difference between marketing and being manipulated in real life. My best friend says Novodamus had a Genesis, I had a SNES. It was awesome. You fanboys are losers. I think that's true. I think us Gen Xers need to go out there and just start, and a little bit younger, and start just making it clear that all these fanboys are fucking losers. Right? You really are. Not the ones that are trolling, not the ones that are having fun. It's fun to pick on, Alabama fans because I'm an Auburn fan. I get that. I'm not talking about fun trash talk. That's different. This goes beyond that, though. And I know that sounds crazy, but it really isn't, because I've encountered some of these people that genuinely care about this shit. And I'm staggered by how childish some of y'all are. Trey says, don't waste your time, energy, emotions on unreachable morons. Trey, I'm with you. I don't think I'm going to change them. But I am fascinated by them. Like, I don't understand how that kind of a brain, and I'm not taking the piss. I'm not being a dick. I'm just kind of like, more fascinated. I'm just like, it's almost like when you take a psychology class in college and they're like, hey, let us tell you, oh my God, I heard about this guy today who was so fucked up in his mind. He got hit in the head and he lost this part of his brain. He thought he was a chicken, or it's one of those things. Like, I'm fascinated by it because it's weird. It's all fun, Jaffe says, Sergeant. I can tell the difference. I can tell the difference between someone going, your fucking system sucks shit, motherfucker. And I'm like, yeah, fuck you. You guys have that game. I want that game. Hey, you want to come over and play Second Extinction? Sure, you got it, bud. That's different. Or Auburn sucks, Alabama sucks, Notre Dame sucks, but you still all get together and watch the game and have a good time. That's different. There's people out there that take this shit serious. It's disturbing. Wicked says it's kind of like religion. Maybe that's why I understand it, because I'm not religious. Some people fight and claw over their God. Controversial, but true. Could be. You bought Spawn for PS2? Excellent. I was in the meeting when they first showed. It was such a different time, you guys. It was like all you needed to get the love and support of sales and marketing was just getting them laughing. We called them marketing moments. I always put them in games where I knew that it would get the crowd of the Sony execs on our side. Whether, it was some of the destruction in Twisted Metal or some of the crazy shit in God of War, it was always an intentional thing. And I was in the meeting where they showed Spawn for PlayStation. I thought it was PlayStation 1. And where Spawn could kill someone and rip someone's arm off and then pick the arm up and beat someone to death with the arm. And the whole room just exploded with laughter. They thought it was the funniest fucking thing. Even to the point that if you remember the print ad from back in the day, it literally was simply a severed arm. When you opened it, you realized it was severed and you could use it as a weapon. I mean, it's amazing. You don't do that as much anymore. It doesn't matter as much anymore. But back in the day, you consciously put that shit in your game specifically because you knew it was going to get marketing, moist, if you will. All right, fellas, that's it. I'm fried. It's 10 o'clock, 10:15 here on the West Coast. Rob the Mod, thank you. Bukaki Drive-By, thank you. Thank you guys all for being great mods. Thank you guys for the super chats. I appreciate it very, very much. Thank you for the conversation. And I will see you guys very soon.
Oh, that's strange. It tastes like... Ah!